what's going on, guys? Now, as many of you know, and many of you don't, my favorite game of all time, bar none, is Metroid Prime 2. Now, yes, primarily we are a Souls-like channel here, but I'm sure you've noticed all the branding, all the background music, the logo, even the channel name is based on Metroid Prime. The logo is just a mixed up version of the Metroid Prime logo. I got Ziostorm from just combining letters to make something that sounded like a Metroid Prime boss name. I love these games. Metroid Prime 2 is the single most influential game on my life. So needless to say, after waiting for almost 17 years for Metroid Prime 4, I have a lot to say about what we've seen. Now, Nintendo has actually showed off a ton about this game so far. We've gotten 2 trailers now, as well as about 10 minutes of gameplay of the opening mission. Now, right off the bat, let me just say this. They played the Nintendo Switch 2 version in 4K at the latest Nintendo Treehouse, and I think very easily this is the best looking game on the Switch 2. Now, I'm sure YouTube's gonna botch the quality a bit on my video because I'm not uploading it in 4K like Nintendo did, but this was to be expected. The Metroid Prime games have always been kind of a cut above everything else Nintendo puts out in terms of graphics. At least Prime 1 and 2 were. Prime 3 went a little weird with the art style. I didn't like the direction of that game, but judging from what we're seeing with Prime 4 here, it does look like they're going back to a more realistic style, deeper shadows, and this one will have HDR compatibility as well, which is awesome. But you can see the rain collecting on the gun, flares from sunlight in the background, the little hexagons in the visor whenever Samus gets shot. It all looks very, very good. It looks like the Prime Remastered we got on Switch 1, which also looked incredible from a graphics standpoint. And they haven't changed anything drastically from what we expected from the past Prime games, which, with Retro Studios doing it, again is to be expected. So let's talk about the bit of story we know so far. Prime 4 is a direct continuation of Prime 3. As shown by the secret cutscene at the end of Metroid Prime 3, the main villain of this game as it appears is Psylux, a rogue Federation hunter like Samus, who appears to have gotten his hands on some mutated Metroids. Now, as we see in the first mission, Psylux was hunting down this artifact that the Federation has, for a reason we don't yet know, but the artifact itself appears to have some kind of space-time distortion powers, and when Samus confronts Psylux, he shoots and strikes the artifact, setting it off, which reacts to his shot and teleports Samus to the planet Viewros. I don't really know how I'm feeling about that name. The planets in Metroid have always had very interesting names, like Talon 4, Aether, Zebes. Viewros, I don't really know. Maybe it'll grow on me. But this is where the traditional Metroid gameplay begins. Stranded on an alien planet, don't know where to go, you gotta figure it out, and you gotta find upgrades to make yourself stronger. So thankfully, ain't nothing changed in that regard. Now, they did reveal the kind of new gimmick they'd have in Prime 4, psychic abilities. Now, to what extent these abilities will play, so far they've shown things for puzzle solving and combining it with your beam to actually aim it after it's been fired. I think it's pretty cool. I think there's a lot of creative direction they could take this, especially in the later game. I don't mind it, I like the vibe of this, especially with the deep purple colors. It kind of fits with that alien atmosphere that is a staple of the Prime games. So no complaints from me so far, but we're gonna have to see how it plays out as the game goes on, because all we've seen so far is only like the first hour. Now, here is perhaps the most important part of any Metroid Prime game. Some people might disagree with me, but it's the vibes. What feeling am I getting while I'm exploring this world? And there's a lot that goes into it, but I think there's a few key moments of the gameplay that we've seen so far that tell me pretty much everything I need to know about what the vibe is going to be in Prime 4. And the first is this moment right here, when Samus encounters this G-Fed trooper, and he updates her visor so she can get past the green doors. All it is the G-Fed trooper talking to her, and she touches her visor. That's it. Now, the fact that nothing else happens in this scene tells us a lot. First of all, Samus doesn't talk, which is very, very good. Samus is my favorite video game character ever, and she's always been very stoic, focused on the mission, and no nonsense. Aura farming 100% of the time. Now, they deviated from this one time in the Metroid franchise, with Metroid Other M trying to make Samus very emotional and characterize her by having to grapple with all this past trauma. And it was such a stark contrast to what we're used to with Samus's character, it left an irreparable stain on the franchise as a whole. And that's not just me saying that. But take a look at this scene too, the first encounter with Psylux. An explosion goes off, Samus turns her head, immediately springs into action. So they got her personality on lock, thankfully. But whenever Psylux shows up, it's no words. She nods her head in recognition, have to have a aura battle, stand down for a minute, and then it's just hands. Shots start popping off. There's no "why are you doing this?" No questions about his motivations. It doesn't matter. Psylux is the target, and that's all there is to it. That is Samus's character right there. The other scene I want to talk about is the encounter with the alien race. Take a listen to what they sound like. Viewros, It reminds me a lot of the Luminoth from Prime 2. The aliens here are pure alien, they're not humanized. They don't talk in perfect American English. And that was a gripe again I had with Prime 3, with a lot of the other hunters. They were very alien in nature, but they spoke English, and it just felt weird. Now when it comes to the Galactic Federation, it makes sense for them to be talking, but again in Prime 3, it was throughout the entire game. In Metroid Prime games, isolation is one of the key factors that sets it apart from other games. Samus is her best when she works alone, and the games are the best when you're alone with this oppressive atmosphere that makes you both nervous and extremely curious about what's around the corner. Exploration is the theme, and when you constantly have somebody narrating in your ear, it takes away from the immersion that the world provides. But thankfully it does appear like the Federation is not going to have a strong presence in the game, and Samus is alone on this adventure. But a big factor of that also is the music. In this regard, I can't complain either, I'd just be nitpicking. It sounds like Prime music. Always very ambient, synth heavy, electric guitar and the combat themes. Now granted, we've only heard a few pieces of the soundtrack, and the main theme appears to be some kind of remix of the Phendrana Drifts theme. What we've heard so far is consistent with the past games, and that's perfect to me. But I need to hear some more unique tracks. Now let me address a few of the concerns I have. Number 1, environmental diversity. Prime 4 takes place first in a G-Fed facility, and then in the jungle environs of Viewros. That's almost exactly the same first 2 missions of Prime 1 and Prime 3. What I do not want to do again is have another desert region, another lava region, and another ice region. We cannot fall into the exact same pattern as the last 3 Metroid Prime games. Prime 2 shook this up a lot with the Dark Ether, and of course Sanctuary Fortress, which was a massive change, and collectively everyone agrees that's the best area in the game. Prime 4 needs to try new things. We're on alien planets. Surely we can get more creative than the same biomes we've had in every single Metroid game ever. With that, it also seems we're going to be working with portals and teleportation. But I hope all the areas are still connected and everything takes place on one planet. I would love to see another interconnected map like we had in Prime 1 and 2. And as much as some people loathe to admit it, backtracking is a big part of the Metroid games. And it's always extremely satisfying when you find a shortcut back to an area you had been before, but now you have a new upgrade that allows you to unlock a secret you didn't find originally. I feel like that loop is a staple of these games, and I'd hate for the story to be very linear. Another minor concern I have is difficulty. Now, the Prime games were never that difficult. Prime 2 is definitely harder than the others, and I think that's part of the reason I enjoy it more than the other two. But one thing they gotta keep in mind is that the demographic for this game is much older. Like I said, it's been almost 17 years since Prime 3. The audience for this game has aged a lot in that time. They don't have to be afraid to up the difficulty quite a bit. Now, I know there is hard mode after you beat the game, but when I played Prime 3, I think I died a total of 3 times. I would have liked it to be much harder. Now, I feel like they got difficulty right in Metroid Dread. That game struck a good balance between difficulty and accessibility of the audience, but Prime 4 doesn't need to be afraid to make things harder. Now, as far as gameplay nitpicks go, everything looks exactly the same as it has been in the past 3 games. The only thing that did catch my eye is that I don't see a toggle for beams, and I really hope that doesn't mean beam stacking is back. Please let me switch beams and have utility for each different one. That is such a big layer of the games that was missing big time in Prime 3, and it's just fun. Now, the absolute biggest concern I have that I have to talk about does not have anything to do with the gameplay or world of Prime 4. It's actually Prime 2 and 3. Where are they? Why on earth do we not have a remaster of Prime 2 and 3, or at least a port yet? How do they expect people to buy the 4th one and understand anything if they didn't play 2 and 3? Now, admittedly, you don't really need to understand the story, and the whole arc of Phazon and Dark Samus was concluded. It's probably not going to be present in Prime 4 at all. But the games are almost 2 decades old. Why do we not have HD ports at the bare minimum for people to experience leading up to Prime 4? I was really expecting to see that in the last Direct, especially since there were a lot of other 2 and 3 games that got HD ports. I really don't understand the logic here. It just seems like the common sense thing to do to get people up to speed. But the biggest part of that is there's no legitimate way to play those games anymore. You have to buy them on secondary markets for way over retail. And I know the trilogy was on Wii U, but nobody has a Wii U. I mean, what are we doing here? I was still holding holding out hope that we'd see them, but now after that, I don't think they exist. And I definitely don't want to encourage pirating, but if there's no legitimate way to get the product, then what are you gonna do? I would really encourage you to play these games before Prime 4, even if you already played Prime Remastered, because also I think Prime 2 is the best and a very unique game. But when it actually comes to Prime 4, I'm very impressed with what we've seen so far. This looks like the retro studios of old. They clearly have not forgotten what made the original Prime trilogy so good. And from the trailers and gameplay we've seen, there isn't anything in there that I have complaints with. All of my concerns are purely hypothetical, and it remains to be seen if there'll even be worries in the final game or not. But man, I cannot wait to play this. This is a game worth buying a Switch 2 for me. But that's my thoughts. What do you guys think about Metroid Prime 4 so far? Have you played the past Metroid Prime games? And will you be playing this one? Either way, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. But with all that, I will catch you in the next one.